That then invokes another question, which is what makes power legitimate? And in a sense, you've already very comprehensively described, apart from this glaring oversight about the money, you very comprehensively described the sort of person that you work for because you wanted to. What I'd like each group to do is to take that list and to reduce it to as few ideas as you can. No more than 5. So we haven't started with you yet. First, have we introduced your table?
We've got 5.
Okay.
Recognition.
Right.
Financial.
I didn't have to say that. I could see it in your eyes that the God mammon was creeping in. Recognition.
Honorable intent. 2 words, sorry. Honorable intent. Credibility. I think credibility through consistency, but it's the same. Passion and trust.
Right. Can you add?
Empowering.
Empowering.
We can add empowering.
Empathetic.
Empowering. Empathy.
Visionary.
Vision.
Congruent.
Congruent.
Honesty.
Honesty is not here.
Yeah, let's add honesty. Yeah. So I'm afraid all of them. Yeah.
Can you add?
Integrity. Intelligence.
Intelligence. The rest are here. Yeah. Okay.
Consistency.
Congruence, consistency.
And approachable.
Approachable.
No, I mentioned
Is that it? Okay, folks. It's a little bit like making a sauce. You know, you put some heat on the stuff and you boil off a lot of stuff and you get some essence. You're comfortable that the words that you have are a reasonably faithful rendition of this. Now, if we put some heat on this yet again, I think we can reduce it further. And the way to do that is to kind of distinguish between what I would call almost like a hard and a soft theme. Some of the stuff in this information have got almost a soft and a kind ring to it. And for instance, you pick it up in words such as trust, I trust the person, empathy, approachable, and that's the only one. It's a little bit thin on this list. It's very well represented on this list. You said trustworthy, listens, approachable, selfless, believes in people, empathy, supportive, humble, support my career. Who said it? I think you said have a genuine interest in me. You know, that's the soft theme. Have a genuine interest in me. And what's interesting about the soft theme is that it has this little bit of an unconditional sting in the tail. Because what you say to the guy is, don't just be interested in what you're getting out of me, have a real interest in me as a person. The best word that we have to capture that sense is the word care. Because when you care for somebody, you are genuinely interested in them, you're not just there to get something out. That word care does capture this sort of bit of an unconditional feel to the word. And there's a lot of the things that you mentioned have that. I mean, we said for you to be able to listen to somebody genuinely means you're, for that period, suspending your agenda to give attention to theirs. You can define that as giving. Giving is the ability to suspend your agenda for somebody else. So it indicates this unconditional kind of a character. Supportive. If you work for a boss who is supportive, it means when the chips are down, even if it might challenge his own career aspirations, he'll still support. He'll do what is right, even if it's not in his own interest. There's this unconditional element. He's in the relationship for you, not just to get something out of it. That's the soft theme. But then there's a harder theme. If you work for somebody who is always honest, will that person always be nice? In other words, sometimes they'll say things to you or do things to you that you'll find upsetting at the time. So why do you want that? Is this leather a nice guy? Hey, I like it. Why do you want them to be nasty with you?
I guess when you're getting good feedback, then you know that it's honest feedback.
Exactly that.
I'm not going right here, man.
I'll try. It's not inconsistent with what you say, because it is double-edged. When he gives me the good feedback, I know that I'm on the right track. When he gives me sort of critical feedback, it helps me to change. Both of those things help me to stay good and get better. In other words, grow. This harder theme is about growth. If we have this sort of this issue about all about the money, but this is the same as honesty and feedback. You can't have the one side of this and not the other. If the guy's going to recognize you for getting it right, he's going to also give it to you between the eyes when you get it wrong. You can't have only one side of that coin, which means it's a double-edged sword. It is like the feedback thing. It's like the honesty thing. And again, it's so that you can learn and grow. Honorable intent, maybe you can add that because that's the unconditional thing. So that goes with the care. Credibility. What is the use to you of having a credible boss?
Believe in what he's trying to do.
In other words, you can take the guy seriously. The guy's exemplary. You can learn from him. If he's a buffoon, how do you learn from a buffoon? I suppose you can, but it's not. They're more interesting ways. Right. Why do you want the guy to be passionate? How can you achieve anything if you're dealing with a dead fish? If there isn't a sense of vision, there isn't a sense of what we can achieve here. Empowering, that's a synonym for growth. Vision, it's the same as it's also about growth. Congruent is about being fair and consistent. Congruent, again, that person who's congruent isn't always nice, but the benefit to you is that you then know where you stand. Integrity, also a person with integrity is exemplary. They're not easy people to work for necessarily. So why do you want that? Well, how can you aspire to anything if the guy isn't exemplary? It's about your growth. Intelligence, the same thing as this buffoon thing. It's difficult to learn from a buffoon. We've dealt with the consistency thing. In the sense I'm saying, folks, if you work for somebody because you want to, it is not because they do 500 things for you. They actually only do 2 things for you. They care for you sincerely, and they give you an opportunity to grow. Care and growth. Those criteria are absolutely universal. They're true for all people. And you can test me on this. Go back to page 3 on your list and see if there's anything on that list that you cannot relate to one of these 2 themes, either care or growth. Nothing there. No, I think that's bloody amazing. I first did this work, the research that all this stuff, the chemical stuff, built on, in the mining industry in the 80s. So let's say we're dealing with a guy who only speaks Sesotho, he shovels rock for a living, he's not had a day's worth of formal education in his life, completely uneducated, completely illiterate. You ask this guy, who's the boss you're going to work for because you want to, and guess what he says? He says somebody who cares for me and grows me. I've subsequently asked that question of groups of people throughout the world in all sorts of strange circles, like senior officers in the Pakistan army. You know, who's the officer that you'll follow because you want to? And guess what the guy says? The officer who cares for you. This criterion of care and growth is the absolutely universal and consistent health criterion for working for a boss because you want it. Now, when I came across the consistency of this criterion, I was really quite surprised because, you know, my original training was as an anthropologist. And in good sort of old-fashioned British social anthropology, we were taught that there's no such thing as a universal in the human condition other than an incest taboo. You know, apart from the fact that you can't do rude things to your sister, you know, kind of everything is, there's no old path. Everything's culturally relative. So when I came across this criterion being operative, situational, I said, how the hell do you account for that? Why is it so consistent? And in order to understand that, I revisited the question that solicited all of this information, and we've dealt with this in sort of by implication already. We've said that if you work for somebody who does all of this stuff for you, and this guy asks you to do something, you'll do it. Which kind of means you give the guy the right to ask you to do things. You give the guy the right to exercise power over you. In other words, this criterion of care and growth is the universal criterion for legitimate power. And if you see it from that point of view, the universality makes absolute sense. Who was the first person in your life who ever exercised power? Parents. And that has to be significant. I mean, because we have an intuitive understanding that there's a connection between the idea of first and the idea of principle. In other words, if you want to understand the principle of a matter, examine the first manifestation of the matter. The first manifestation of power is parenting. In this relationship, there are two people. There's a parent, there's a big one, and there's a little one. What is the job of the big one for the little one? First they feed them, otherwise they frack and welfare comes after. There's distress. But what's the aim of all this feeding and wiping? Is so that the little one can grow. In other words, the job of the big one for the little one in any relationship of power is care and growth. When the subordinate experiences that the superordinate is paying this coin, the subordinate becomes willing. When the subordinate experiences that the superordinate is not paying this coin, the subordinate becomes resistant. And it doesn't matter how much money you pay them. You can pay people 3 times what you're paying them now. You do the opposite of this and they still come to it because they have to. You get no engagement at all. So, our second axiom says, if we write it down, please. Any relationship of power is legitimate if the aim of that relationship is the care and growth of the subordinate.